So Regina is a maid in Mrs. Alvings' household. She sort of grew up there, but she wasn't always like in this really nice household. She grew up with her father, Engstrand, who is like not the most outstanding character. Her mom left when she was really little. Her mom actually had the same history of her. She worked in Mrs. Alvings' household and had an affair with Mr. Alving, and then Regina was the child of that affair. So there's a bit of tea there. Joanna, Regina's mother, went down into town and married Engstrand, was basically paid off to not talk about it. Regina grew up in Engstrand's household, which was like not very upstanding. Engstrand's not the best father to her. We don't really know from the script, but sort of the general idea is that he was a pretty bad father, didn't treat her very well, kind of used her. Yeah, so she's this maid and she just really wants to get out of that, so she got this great position in this house and she's really happy to be there and in this like really lovely house, and she's so excited because it's like this great opportunity for her. You know, she like meets Oswald, and she, you know, could possibly go to France with him, and she's like so excited to live this classy, like lovely life. But also coming from a place of not so much class and everything. So she's just sort of trying to build her way up throughout the show. She's kind of interesting. She's like a very young, I was actually talking to the director last night, and she's about 16, so she's sort of seen a lot, I think, in her life, but also is pretty naive and cheerful, and just sort of like really enjoys like the sort of act of like being in this like wonderful household and everything. So she's just sort of like a cheerful girl, just trying to like do her best and make her way through life. Just general like cheerfulness and optimism, which is something that I've kind of struggled with a lot this year. I'm a second year, so I'm sort of like in the midst of figuring out what I want to do with my life, and sort of letting yourself get hampered down by the ghosts of your past or those of the future or anything is really difficult. And I think just sort of trying to bring optimism and cheerfulness and sort of bubbly energy is never something that can go wasted. So I think especially with UBC students, we're all sort of in this place where we don't really know what's going on. We're at the mercy of a lot of like outside forces in the world, you know, like what our parents think of us, what the world is going to think of us as we move forward. We're sort of in this period of like a lot of uncertainty where we don't really know where we're going. We're all just kind of trying to grasp at straws and keep moving forward with our lives, and I think Regina represents that a lot in the play. She's got a very strong drive, which I think people at UBC definitely have. Everyone that I've met has been very like, you know, we're at UBC, we're at this really incredible institution, we're in this really great place, just like Regina is. She's in this really great house, she's got all these great opportunities, and she's trying to take advantage of them as much as she can. I've actually found inspiration in a lot of my fellow students, just sort of like keeping on. I don't know, when you're young, you're so resilient. You just keep moving forward and keep going on. I think it's tempting to let ourselves be sort of like dampened by the harsh realities of life, but the beauty of youth is that you keep going in spite of that, and you know you have to, because you have so much life left to live, and Regina has so much left to live. All the UBC students have so much life left to live. There's so much we have to do and get out there. So yeah, definitely. I've had like quite a few very abrupt turnarounds in sort of like what I think I'm going with the character, because I think I read the play and I was like, oh, it's this dramatic play, like there's all these ghosts of the past, everyone's so weighed down. I sort of like thought Regina was part of that. I hadn't really contextualized it a lot, so it was actually pretty difficult for me to get out of the ghosts of the past and the harsh realities of life, and the ending scene sort of being like, oh my god, like my life has changed, like what am I gonna do? I'm so mad that like this is happening. But really, the kind of beauty of Regina is that she doesn't feel that way. She's faced with this, her whole life is turned around. She goes, okay, I'm all right, I'm gonna go and do something else now, because that's what I have to do. Finding that sharp turnaround and finding that youthful optimism, actually pretty difficult for me. It's difficult to remain optimistic and keep going in life, but I think Regina is a really strong a really admirable representation of people who can do that, who are strong enough to just sort of be faced with problems and not let them weigh them down, just sort of keep moving and keep going, and yeah, keep that drive. The play starts out with her being really mean to her father, Engstrand, and I think And that was definitely not pleasant to see as like the first thing that your character is presented to as the audience, is being this like really sad, saucy young girl who just doesn't really have time for her father and things like that. And I think you would think when you're first confronted with that, oh, she's not grateful for her father or whatever. But I think as the play goes on, you see what sort of character Engstrand is, and you can see how dynamic is very much justified. I think just looking more into Regina, while I say that like this quick turnaround is a very good thing for her, it's also kind of heartless. I had difficulties coming to terms with abrupt shift. She's got, you know, commitments in the house. She has responsibilities to people and to, you know, she's built this really strong foundation there, but she doesn't seem to feel any loyalty to that. In the end, she's a very self-driven and very much sort of drops other people that she's collected on the wayside in pursuit of her own goals, which I think is both a really admirable quality of her, but also something that's really difficult to come to terms with, because it seems very heartless to just leave so abruptly, just sort of drop everything and keep going. Yeah, pretty much any of the lines that Regina says that will cut anybody off, she very much calls people on their bull. She'll call you on it if she sees something happening. I would say my favorite line is probably some of the ones from the first scene with her and Engstrand. Every time he tries to say something, he's like so excited about this sailor's home that he's trying to open, right? And she goes, oh, well, you've tried that often enough, but much good you've done with it. And every time he tries to pull one of his little Engstrand acts on her, she's like, nope. She turns it right around and she's like, you know, she calls him out for his drinking, she calls him out for not being a very upstanding citizen. She is very sharp to catch all of those. Remain inspired, like remember why you're doing what you're doing. I think as actors it's really easy to be like, oh my god, everything's crazy and I don't know like what exactly like is the right thing to do, and you're always worried about how the audience or the director or whoever is going to see you. Or, you know, just in general, how you're going to portray this character as honestly as possible. And I think just sort of keeping going and just always trying to understand the character and where they're coming from and what they're feeling and what inspires them, what motivates. You're never going to go wrong if you try to find that character and sort of find that personality within them. And that's the funnest part, is like getting to know this new person. I think auditioning is really fun, and that you get to know this really new character all in one go, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, we'll like go with this and see what happens. And I think that's a lot of the fun of it. Is driven, she's passionate. I think she's bubbly. I think she's got a lot going for her. She's definitely driven, a little saucy, like be this like really refined lady and everything, but she gets her shots in when she wants to. I would look for what she gives time to, like who she gives time to and what things she's willing to really sit down and give her experience to. Like there are certain characters in the play that she really won't give any time at all, and then there's also characters that she'll give a lot of her time. How much time she gives to different people and why she's giving that time to them. How she acts around the different people, I think is really fun, actually. I feel like there's a different Regina for every character in the play, because she has so many different ideas going around. Yeah, and I would just sort of pay attention to all the different workings with all the different people, because those are really fun.
Aww.
Yeah.